This is the European edition of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show. We bring you the European unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving fintech scene today. A truly localized podcast with both English and local language content, with some of the world's most well-known hosts and influencers in the fintech sector globally. Join us every week as we explore what makes the European Union a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing fintech plays in the world today. Okay, let's roll.
Hello everyone, and very much welcome to Breaking Banks Europe number 266, news from the fintech front. Today I have a very special guest, and that's Jos van Kerkhof. He's the country manager in the Netherlands for Visa. Jos, very much welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Don. It's been great to join you finally today.
I was also really looking forward to our conversation. I think Visa is very active on all kinds of fronts of fintech. So I'd really love to pick your brain, see where you're working on, how you see the market, and hopefully spark an interesting conversation for our listeners.
Absolutely. I'm sure that we will bring some exciting insights for sure.
All right, let's get the thing started. You're country manager of the Netherlands. So how is Visa doing in the Netherlands?
Visa is doing really, really good in the Netherlands. So we just announced that we grew the number of cards in the market with 23%, and also the volumes that result from those cards grew with 18%. So really, the Netherlands is becoming more blue, as we like to say, from a Visa perspective. We're really, really proud of that growth, and of course, that growth isn't just something we do; it's ultimately stemming from the trust that our customers have in us, and that makes us, as a partner-focused company, extremely proud.
Great. That sounds really good. And so was it also a country where there was a lot of growth potential still? So do you see that there's a lot of room to grow?
For Visa, there's lots of potential to grow also in the Netherlands. So it's a very digitally advanced country. So for indeed an organization like Visa that provides a lot of innovative solutions, that is always on the forefront. This is like, almost a payments heaven, you could argue. It's an amazing place to be active in, and for us also to bring a lot of innovation to Dutch consumers, merchants, and the whole ecosystem. It's fantastic.
Okay. Great. And so let's say, if you can name something, what does your product stack or services stack look like here? What kind of things are you offering?
Yeah, no, indeed. So I think everybody traditionally, of course, knows us from our cards business, which makes perfect sense. I mean, that is where it all started. Having consumers pay for their groceries, their shopping, their travel, their whatever they want to do with their card, be it in store or, of course, using those cards online. Yep. That is still the core piece that we're at, but we are advancing into way additional areas where we're providing very advanced fraud solutions that are, screening for fraud. We're able to scan or to detect 54% of, for instance, fraudulent bank transfers. Our systems are able to pick that up, so we can help protect consumers. We can help protect the banks and the ecosystem with our solutions, also outside of cards. We're involved, for instance, in processing solutions with Pismo that provides really state-of-the-art core banking and processing capabilities towards fintechs and banks. So there's a lot of things at play for us at Visa, and of course, where we see specifically for the Netherlands enormous growth for us is that the Netherlands is advanced, as I just mentioned, but the way that Dutch people pay online isn't necessarily using cards or Visa cards and credentials. So that's specifically with the introduction now finally of having Visa Debit available next to Visa Credit, we will expect that also consumers will more and more start using their cards online. So we have growth areas, potential, and big opportunities for us, essentially all across the board.
Great. I can imagine indeed that here the debit product is a really favorable one to adapt to the Dutch habit of using debit cards. Is that something that you see across Europe as well, or do you really see it still country by country, a big difference in whether people are using credit cards, debit cards, or other means of payment as a sort of a natural way of doing transactions?
No, I think it's really interesting that indeed across Europe, every market has its own characteristics. So indeed, where the Netherlands is historically not so much using cards online and is excessively using cards in store, right? So we are at the forefront of how people pay in stores using their cards. That's different, for instance, from some other markets. What we of course do see across all of Europe is that anybody that lives in Europe, whether you're a merchant or a consumer, you want to have an easy, safe, and reliable way to pay everywhere. And that's where, the introduction of click to pay, for instance, is really driving a lot of value for the entire ecosystem. Having a very, very simple way to pay online that is, driving your convenience as a user, that is at the same time for a merchant driving 5 to 6% additional conversion. So having just more sales that are there. And I think this is the beauty of it, also driving fraud down with nearly 60% is, of course, an amazing way forward, that it helps essentially everybody except for fraudsters. Yeah, for me, that's a perfect solution.
Yeah, that sounds cool. So, I think it's great. And so, is there a lot of collaboration across Europe then also with basically your counterparts? Is that a strong European organization?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So indeed, we collaborate on a lot of things, and specifically for Click to Pay, it's a solution that we've embraced. But in the end, it's a solution that's been developed by EMVCo, which means that also Mastercard, but also Discover, also American Express, essentially anybody that's using EMVCo standards for it is all embracing the same technology, which makes the adoption, of course, a lot more interesting, both on the merchant side as well as on the consumer side, because the reach and the usability and the diversity is a lot bigger. So both across Netherlands, say Belgium, Germany, name a range of European countries, Click to Pay is being embraced, but even more so also across various payment schemes.
Cool. I think so. One thing, especially if you talk about Europe, I think it's quite interesting that at the current day and age, there's a lot more talk about sort of independence of the US. Let's say more self-sovereignty, being able to run our own infrastructure, especially with regard to critical elements in society like payments. How do you work on that with Visa? I mean, you must see the sentiment as well, right? And I can imagine that you probably also have some countermeasures or ideas on how you could handle that as a Visa.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and of course we see those messages, and we also understand some of the concerns. At the same time, we understand that European people want to pay in a very convenient and simple way. And we've also been very much part of that European ecosystem for such a long time. There's a lot of transactions that run over processing infrastructures from European organizations. And also we are fully committed to building upon the partnerships that have made us so successful to further, work together. Yeah. One area where we particularly stand out is, of course, is cybersecurity. And in a world that is increasingly under attack by advanced cyber threats and attacks, we are able to provide very secure ways to pay for people. It's something where we have invested 12 billion in the last couple of years. It's where we have 1,000 people who work day in, day out on nothing else than cybersecurity. So having essentially that, as well as our own European presence, there's 6,000 people in Europe that work for Visa. We're active in 38 countries. I mean, it's we are also very much a contributor to the European system, and it's something that we continue to believe in.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I think that's interesting to see indeed, and I'm also curious from that perspective how the sentiment will go. I do see indeed a strong political drive or sentimental drive to stronger independence. At the same time, convenience has proven to be a winner in a lot of cases, right? So that's as long as you deliver good services, you come a long way, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree.
Yeah. So cool. I think there's really a lot going on. I think one topic I really want to touch upon as well is I think on crypto. I think especially since we saw President Trump taking on the White House, that there's been a much more favorable climate for crypto. Especially recently now with the listing of Coinbase and even being taken up in the S&P 500. Being some really major shifts from crypto into the more mainstream finance world. That's of course not something that's new to Visa, but I'm really curious to hear a bit more about how you see this crypto development and what you're doing with it.
No, exactly. I mean, I think the crypto space has always been very exciting, and I remember from my own personal experience, before I was at Visa, I worked at ABN AMRO for a long time, and as a bank at the time, we were of course also looking into crypto and the potential of crypto. And I remember way back in, I believe it was 2012 or 2013, that we looked into how can blockchain work. I bought my first half Bitcoin at the time for $85.
Did you hold on to it?
I lost it. It's gone somewhere. So it's indeed a very painful topic. So yeah. But
as long as you denominate your loss in the then current prices.
Exactly. That's also what I do mentally. I tell myself I lost $85, which is still painful, but less painful than losing $50,000. So it's definitely a need there. So it's an area I've been following, and also from Visa's perspective, we've been following it very, very closely. So we've established a crypto team years ago already, and I think the volatility of crypto and Bitcoin and the likes has not stopped us from continuing to invest more into the crypto space. Our team has only grown with more specialists, more expertise, more capabilities, and we're now also able to offer solutions like the digital token platform, where players can mint and burn and manage their own stablecoins is a fantastic development. And the crypto space just continues to mature, and I think that's extremely exciting.
Yeah, and I think also they could also benefit from your fraud and security tools, as we also saw that Coinbase actually suffered quite a big breach of data recently, and so that's also one of the things. Is this also something that you see as a potential, that this still early market where some things really have to professionalize further is also something that you could actually offer these kind of services to?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, we are committed to helping, the good people. So, where we can help and our solutions can help protect against fraud, then of course we are committed. I also really want to applaud what Coinbase did. They were hacked. A ransom was asked. They could have paid the ransom and gotten away with it. They actually took what I think is also the moral high ground, and I think they did that really cleverly, and I really just want to applaud them for it. They reimbursed, of course, the fraud that happened, so they made sure that their customers didn't suffer from it. They invested, the ransom was 20 million. They invested that money to go find the person that hacked it and try to get it over. So from a behavioral perspective of in this case Coinbase, but also an illustration of everybody that works in the crypto space, I find that the maturity and therefore also the attention to protecting consumers and the users of crypto is something that is done really, really well. Bitfavo has done something similar, of course, a year and a half ago in the Dutch market and European market. I think it's really clever. I also think it's the right thing to do, and I think it's also really showing their own maturity as well as their own care. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. Indeed, it might be quite attractive to think about keeping it, under the hood and just paying some money to get away with it. But indeed, going the public way, taking the blame and trying to just solve it for your customers is definitely the decent way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, and then let's say that's of course still on the sort of crypto as we always knew it perspective. One of the trends we currently see as well, which is also driving, I think, to a large extent, let's say crypto blockchain solution adoption, is the whole stablecoin development. I think this, especially now in Europe with MiCA regulation in place, becomes is a very strong growing area. How do you look on that?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think the potential with these stablecoins is immense. I mean, I think it's incredible to see how also that part within the broader crypto ecosystem continues to grow. We've done some analysis in this space, and this is publicly available also when you search for Visa on-chain analysis. You can find the website where we track a lot of this information publicly. But if you see how much these stablecoins are around, and it's, the additional use cases are being found for either remittances for a person to send money abroad, an expat sending money home, or paying for tuition for your kids if you live in other places. But of course, also from a business perspective, as you manage your own treasury in a global sense, I mean, the potential to do that using stable coins and then using the underlying technology is just incredible. And that's of course also what you see. The growth of stable coins is just really picking up. I think it's interesting you mentioned, of course, and this is the Breaking Banks Europe podcast. I think it's really interesting to see just the substantial size and therefore the importance of indeed US dollar based stablecoins. I mean, that's over 90% of stablecoins are pegged to the dollar. I think that makes sense for a lot of reasons. But at the same time, I think it is remarkable knowing, of course, that, Europe also has a strong currency. Switzerland has a strong currency, of course, a smaller market, but, there's more players to it. And I think with, regulation like MiCA, but also indeed the announcements that have been made in the US, we're just going to be in the forefront. There's even more growth in that space.
Yeah, I think that's definitely quite interesting. I think that's also why, this is of course why also central banks are all looking to launch their own official stablecoin, right? The central bank digital currency, like the digital euro. I think this is also, of course, one of the big drivers behind that. And it's really funny indeed, because also, again, I think this morning there was another record price for Bitcoin in dollars, not in euros, because actually the dollar euro course changed significantly. So actually it's not the highest point from a euro perspective. And there you already see indeed that it would make a lot of sense to actually have, at least for Europeans, have a euro-denominated trading mechanism where a euro stablecoin could play an important role.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so but if you take it one step further, I think that's also quite interesting and more on an infrastructure level, right? So if stablecoins would be generally accepted and could play a role in our general payment infrastructure, we could potentially rethink that whole infrastructure, because the stablecoin provides infrastructure in itself. So how do you look at that from a Visa perspective?
No, indeed, I think that the potential that's there, and for stablecoins to continue playing a major role in the future is enormous. The underlying infrastructure indeed allows for near real-time settlement, and near real-time settlement can be used for a lot of different cases. It can be used for the remittances I just talked about. It can be used for the B2B payments I just talked about. It's also an area where we think that for fintechs that are active in this space and that want to work with players like Visa, if we can increase the times that we settle, and we can, make it easier to settle with each other using crypto technology. And we have these things live today, right? So we announced several years ago that you can now settle using USDC on the Visa network. We can make it easier to settle also for fintech players. And why does it matter, you may ask? Going to issue Visa cards in the future, we typically ask for collateral, because we want to ensure that you are able to pay for the funds that are there. If we can settle quicker and better, then the collateral we need to ask can be lower. So it makes it a lot more interesting for players. For us, that's of course commercially interesting, but if you consider that for the ecosystem as a whole, that also makes it a lot more interesting to use it. And I think on top of all of that, I think what's equally important, perhaps less so from a European perspective, but from a global perspective, having stablecoins available also in places where perhaps getting real dollars available or other ways of fiat currency available that are stable. This allows for sub-Saharan African countries to get a store of value that's a lot more stable. And I think there is ample evidence from a macroeconomic perspective that having a stable currency is just better for economies. It just allows them to function better. It just allows for more development. So also just from a humanitarian perspective or economic perspective, I think it's an amazing achievement if through stable coins, we can collectively improve economies across the world. It's going to be tremendous.
Yeah, I'm afraid it does require a certain discipline from politicians that we might lack in several cases, but in principle, you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's quite interesting. And so I also see a lot of initiatives where stablecoins are being embedded inclusively in all kinds of other payment means. So we see, of course, the last couple of years, enormous growth in a number of digital wallets for payments. From Apple Wallet and Google. You've got, of course, Wero coming up, and you see that all kinds of other platforms are now actually trying to gather payment means, either by providing rails by themselves or just collecting the rails that have been laid by others. How do you see that evolve from your end? Because I think that's for Visa also increasingly an important let's say, delivery method of your payment services, right? Because customers don't use a card anymore; they just use their watch or their phone.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's incredibly interesting. And luckily, the core of everything that we do is not even the card. The core of everything we do is partnerships. So these wallets are extremely exciting, and they play a very important role for many people in Europe and around the world. And luckily for us, the core of Visa is not necessarily the card, but the core of Visa is the partnerships. So we have a lot of partnerships with those wallet providers, but also with banks and with a lot of other players that allow us to continue to having a role to play. I think similarly towards the stablecoin environment being extremely exciting, you also see that these wallets continue to evolve and can build upon the Visa network, for instance, for acceptance where they themselves don't have acceptance yet or will not need to get it because they get it through Visa. So that's an extremely exciting area. I think equally exciting is, of course, what's happening now in the AI space, where a lot of these wallets are embedded and also enabling people to use AI technology to make their shopping easier, and then allowing through the wallet to then pay for it by an AI agent. I think it's very exciting also what's happening there.
Yeah, that's basically because, let's say, you could include a payment mandate into these wallets as well. And I think you're also referring to the news by Google that was launched this week about their agentic shopping agents. So I think it's really interesting. How do you probably looked into this as well? What did you see there? What were they announcing, and what do you think is going to happen next?
Yeah, no, indeed. So my takeaway from the Google announcement was indeed that they found a very simple way in which organically you could start ordering things, without having to do it yourself. So you could have their AI agent. They've embedded, of course, their Gemini model into their own, into their own Google pages and sites and all the applications they have. But essentially, it curates a whole package for you. It then says, I found this for you. Do you want to buy it? And it's something that we believe in as well. On the 30th of April, we announced ourselves Visa Intelligent Commerce, which is also just going to help people make purchases easier. And of course, that can be setting up a city trip. So if you want to set up a city trip and you want to go, somewhere nice, you can ask the AI agent for inspiration where to go. But, the next step can be that the AI assistant or agent is just going to make the reservations for you. They're going to book that restaurant. They're going to book that hotel. They're going to book that flight. They're going to book the excursions. They're going to book the travel if you want. Mm-hmm. That can be fully curated for you. You don't have to do that yourself. Then, of course, there's people that say, I love setting up my own city trips. I don't want AI to do that. Then, of course, you can continue doing that. But I don't think there's a lot of people that say they love buying, peanut butter to put on their sandwiches in the morning, right? So that's also areas where AI is going to help people make purchases and going to make purchases on behalf of people. It's a very exciting area where, building upon the capabilities of AI is just going to transform how people pay. Is that happening tomorrow? Of course not. Anything that happens in payments takes time to adopt, but it's going to be something that we will be increasingly seeing over time, and we have the capabilities in place, similar to the announcement that Google made, where they made these purchases super easy. And there's also several other players. MasterCard announced something, PayPal announced something. I think it's really exciting space.
Yeah, definitely. I see also some challenges for the KYC and AML business coming up with all these AI agents acting on behalf of other people. So it's quite an interesting. I think it's fascinating, and I think a lot of people would love to get rid of their chores or anything that feels like chores to them by using these agents. And of course, there will definitely also people that would just love to figure it out themselves. But generally, that's the minority. So I think it's quite exciting how we see this world evolving, and it's really the next level of integration between how we as humans would want to work and communicate, and in how far the machines are able to understand that and work with that, right? So we don't have to speak machine language anymore to tell them what to do.
No, indeed, it's just incredible, and you can just talk to it even with your voice or type, of course. And it understands, it provides empathy, it can build stuff for you that you weren't necessarily trained yourself to do. what is possible with the use of these AI use cases is incredible.
Yeah. Now, that said, I think you sound like quite an AI enthusiast yourself, but I think at the same time there's also quite some skepticists around who say, yeah, it's not really working that well. It's basically just chatbot 2.0. What are we talking about? It doesn't make any sense. It's all hype. What's your thought on that?
I mean, it's innovation, right? So is it going to be perfect and tailored for everybody on day one? Of course not. It needs further refinement. It needs further input. It also needs further tailoring to make it available and efficient to be used by everybody. Indeed, I am indeed very optimistic on it. I think indeed what is possible with it, and also I use it heavily and increasingly in my daily business, but also my daily personal life. The time I'm able to save, or sometimes the communication I'm able to write towards others, or how I am, yesterday I was full in AI in preparation for this session, how I'm able to train myself for a podcast like this. It's just so much more tailored, so much more specific, so much more in a way that works for me. That I find the efficiency that I get from it far outweighs indeed some of the other concerns. But yeah, at the same time, I do also sympathize with people that are less convinced yet. And I think that's a logical thing. When you look at people, there's always people that are going to be more geared towards innovation, are earlier to see how it may help them specifically. It's very human to ask, what's in it for me? And if you don't see that, then I understand the skepticism. But I think as people embrace it more and more and more, they can see what technology can do for them. And at the same time, as society, as Visa, we have to also maintain the trust that people have, specifically when it comes to purchases. So indeed, can I trust my AI agent? Or as a merchant, can I trust the AI agent that is going to shop on behalf of Don or Jos? Can I send the goods there and will I get paid? All those things are very valid questions. And luckily, we are able to have answers for that to make sure that those safeguards are in place. But the people question that, I think, is valid. It's up to the industry, to everybody that is listening to this podcast, to come up with answers that prove that this potential can be realized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think there, indeed, in the financial industry, we're not in the easiest place, right? Because indeed, it's all about trust, and that trust needs to be triple secured before it's actual trust that we can work with. So indeed, there's already less room to maneuver if you would talk about the use of AI in that sense. So I think as well, if you want to look at the nicest innovations, they're happening just outside the walls of the financial industry, not inside these walls, is my expectation.
They happen all over, and indeed it's for the financial industry to learn from what's possible outside the financial industry, and at the same time it's also for the financial industry to recognize the trust that's there. When I go on my holiday and I say would go to Peru and I buy something in a Peruvian store and I tap my Visa card to it and the machine says beep beep beep, then there is a trust for everybody also there that I get the goods, of course, that I'm buying, but the merchant also trusts that this random Dutch person that showed up to his store that he's never met before and very likely never going to see again is going to be paying for the goods that he just bought, the cola, probably in my case. So I think that's going to be, there is also a lot of trust that's already there, and that trust we can transpose onto the full ecosystem to make sure that people can continue to trust, in our case, the Visa brand, but we can say equal things for others.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It puts indeed a bit of a stronger challenge on the actors within the financial industry to do this, but it definitely is possible to adapt.
Yeah,
quite interesting. So maybe I think, Jos, we're almost have to wrap up again. Is there anything you're looking forward to? What's coming up? Can you already give us a sneak preview of some of the cool Visa announcements you're going to do later this year?
That's alrighty. Well, I thought our A&I announcement that we made indeed, and our stablecoin announcement from the 30th of April from the product drop are indeed already very exciting. I think that's where we've invested a lot, and we continue to invest a lot. The Flex credential is also a very interesting one where, with a single credential, you can decide you want to pay it now, essentially on debit? Do I want to pay it later on credit? And in some markets, do I want to pay in installments? It's a very flexible product in that space that also is very exciting. And then our whole money movement capability, something we haven't talked about much today yet, but over the Visa network and the partner networks that are connected to Visa, we can now reach 11 billion endpoints in the world. I mean, that is a lot of endpoints that you can just reach with a single connection, and then transform and transfer money all across in a way that is reliable, that is transparent, and that is trustworthy, is something that we're very proud of. We continue to invest in, and also an area where we look how can stablecoins play a role to further enhance this, but also outside of stablecoins, it's very exciting space.
Maybe just to pick up on your global transfer capabilities, how do people get access to that, for example? How can people see that in action?
So we tend to connect, or we are an enabler for financial institutions. So if you are a licensed player, then you can connect into the Visa network. So there is, for instance, BBVA, a big Spanish bank, is using our capabilities also for stablecoins, but also for transfer of funds internationally. We have partnerships with Wise. We have partnerships with Western Union. We have partnerships with a lot of different players that are increasingly using the Visa network to transfer money all across the world. So, our business model is never direct to consumer or direct to recipient or sender. We always have a licensed, regulated financial institution in between, and customers that use the services of those customers are the ones that are then using Visa technology and capability. And again, that comes down to that partnership model that we have, that we believe in, and that we really cherish.
So they should be seeing these, let's say, for example, money transfer options as a product with their service provider.
Exactly. Yeah, indeed. And where it makes sense that Visa is mentioned, then of course it's there, but it may also run over Visa's network without essentially no one except for the provider knowing.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. I think that's really cool and really exciting. I think especially we're going to follow as well on your follow-up on your AI sort of agentic shopping module, also the work that you're doing there with Visa, and follow what else is coming in the market, because it's likely now we see a trigger of multiple of those announcements coming up in the coming period on very much usable agentic AI cases. So thanks a lot. Maybe one more thing. You're based out of Netherlands and you're in payments. So we're likely seeing you at Money 2020 Europe, I would assume.
Absolutely. I'll be there, but I hope to see you there too, Don.
I will be there as well, indeed. So for everyone listening, should you want to meet our team, Elizabeth Kleinveld and me, Don Ginsel, will be there recording some podcast in the Money Pot, and of course walking around, speaking with everyone in the industry, and catching some new ideas for some new podcasts and some new ideas on how the market will shape. So should you want to find us, please come to the Money Pot at Money 2020 Europe. No, sorry, the 3rd to the 5th of June in Amsterdam. Very much looking forward to seeing you there. And you, of course, Jos. It's been great having you on the show. Thank you for sharing your insights.
Absolutely. It's been fantastic to join you today, Don. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks again. It's been wonderful to have you also as listeners, everyone. This was Breaking Bank Europe number 266, news from the Fintech front, with Jos van Kerkhof of Visa. I'm Don Ginsel, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Europe, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with Fintech Stage. Don't forget to tweet us out, shout out, or post to the team at Breaking Banks EU on Twitter. If there's something or someone you'd like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next week on Breaking Banks Europe.